Ladies and gentlemen, the academic procession is about to enter the hall. We will be singing the national anthem, and the words can be found on page 9 of the program. Please be upstanding for the academic procession and remain standing for the national anthem. Thank you.
Australians, oh, let us rejoice, for we are young and free. We've golden soil and wealth for toil. Our home is girt by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts of beauty rich and rare. In history's page let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains and let us sing, advance Australia fair.
I, David Hill, Deputy Chancellor of the University of Adelaide, declare open this congregation convened for the purposes of presenting degrees. Distinguished guests, parents, relatives, friends, and especially graduates, welcome to the University of Adelaide's graduation ceremony. We acknowledge the Kaurna people, past and present, the original custodians of the Adelaide Plains, and thus the land upon which the University of Adelaide's campuses are built. And we acknowledge this day the Kaurna people's ongoing spiritual connection to this beautiful land. Well, what a beautiful day. This very special day, this happy day for all of you, is a sign that life is just a little bit returning to normal here in this beautiful state, and long may that continue, and we're certainly very, very grateful. We're delighted to welcome all of you who are here physically to enjoy this graduation on the beautiful campuses on which we meet. We're also delighted to extend a warm welcome to all those who are able to join us online, and we trust they enjoy this ceremony with us today. But graduates, this is your day. As I said, it's a very exciting, a very special and a very happy day. It's a chance for you to celebrate with family and friends and to take great pride in what you have achieved and what has led to this day. We certainly as a university see today as a great source of pride and excitement. And as I said, it's a very special opportunity for you to reflect on your past and your future, to reflect on all those who have supported you to this day, and also where your life and career might lead you. Our only hope is that the knowledge and the skills that you've acquired at this great institution will serve you well and place you in good stead in both your life and your working career. It's now my great pleasure to introduce you to our graduation orator today, Miss Michelle Edge. Michelle was appointed Chief Executive of Primary Industries and Regions SA in April 2020. She guides the strategic direction of this organisation, including the policies, programs and actions right across the state to support our primary industries, agribusiness and, importantly, the regions of South Australia. Before joining PIRSA, Michelle was CEO of Operational Solutions for Primary Industries New Zealand. She was the CEO of the Australian Meat Processor Corporation, the Rural Research and Development Corporation, and has in fact held a number of senior government roles, particularly with the Victorian government, which we won't hold against her. She's more than welcome here today. Michelle is also a member of the University of Adelaide's Agri-Food and Wine Advisory Board, and we really do appreciate the support of senior people like Michelle in supporting the objectives of the university. So we are very privileged to hear from Michelle today, and I would ask that you would all make Michelle welcome this morning. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm very pleased to be here today, a day of celebration for you all, and what an exciting day since all of you are very lucky to come together given the challenges that everyone has faced this year with COVID-19. I'm also really pleased to be in South Australia, and I'm also wanting to acknowledge the strong partnership that the Department of Primary Industries and Regions holds with the University of Adelaide. Chancellor, Vice-Chancellor, Deputy Chancellor, I should say, members of faculty, ladies and gentlemen, and most importantly, all of you graduating today, to whom I offer my sincerest congratulations. It's an honour and a pleasure to have been invited to speak with you today, and also in seeing the pride and joy in your faces and the sense of accomplishment that you're all sharing in this joyous moment, and probably no small measure of relief as well. I wish you every happiness in your well-earned achievement, and I hope that you will each rightly celebrate in style. It's been a difficult year for everybody, therefore you should certainly acknowledge within yourselves a huge sense of achievement for a job well done. I'd also like to acknowledge the importance of science and the field that you've all chosen to be part of. I acknowledge your thirst in learning, your interest in inquiry, and your interest in the world around us. Whether we all understand or not, or observe it or not, one way or another, science has a massive impact in all of our lives every single day. All of the advances we've made have been possible because of the work of scientists, technologists, engineers, biologists, physicists and mathematicians. Research across the full spectrum leads to new ideas, understanding and new and better applications. And as science and technology has helped us get where we are now, so it will also help us in the future. This is why I also commenced my career in science, in agricultural science, following graduation. Back then, this was about wanting to work with animals, recognising food and agriculture was seriously important to our society and community, and also recognising that food security would become more and more important over time. Nowadays, worry as we should about climate, health, ageing population, our supply of nutritious food and drinkable water, we also know that science has a huge role to play. Science will continue to play a major part in our adaptation and our ability as a nation to manage and mitigate and solve some of the challenges that we will face together. You will all be part of that, and you will contribute to driving our future through scientific discovery and the use of scientific knowledge to meet future challenges. Here in Australia, very luckily also, we recognise the role of science, and we invest in science. And our education system produces graduates like yourselves who are well-trained, well-educated and knowledgeable across a broad variety of disciplinary areas. So your nation needs you. We need graduates in agriculture, fisheries, forestry, biology, physics, biotechnology, marine science. Here in Australia, we are lucky to have a large proportion of graduates in these disciplinary areas, and we must be a nation where skills and inventiveness drive our ability for business, for government, and for community to develop better products and services. Science's contribution in revolutionising agriculture and environmental management will be of no surprise to anybody in this room. In particular, chemistry, biology, and genetics has allowed us to produce more and more with less and less. So I commend you on your fields of study. Agricultural science, the focus of my career since graduation, is as important today as when I went into this field. The Food and Agriculture Organisation of the United Nations shows that at the start of the new millennium, 2.57 billion people depended on agriculture, fishing and forestry for their livelihoods, representing about 42% of all human beings. Historically, as we know, few countries have experienced rapid economic growth and poverty reduction that haven't relied in some way or been developed from agricultural growth. Our global crop production has increased from 1.84 billion tonnes in 1960 to 4.38 billion in 2007. This is a 138% increase, stemming from only 11% increase in the amount of agricultural land used. But with this boom has become a series of challenges, such as topsoil depletion, groundwater contamination, increasing costs of production, and also in some countries, challenges in terms of social conditions as well. Providing enough food in this context will require unprecedented scientific, economic and political challenges. So we look forward to a new era of agriculture, one focused on longevity, endurance and now sustainability. To be sustainable, we need to grow our food in ways that are less resource intensive while satisfying the demands of our global population. Science will be crucial to this endeavour. In agriculture and in environmental management, there are going to be around 4 key challenges that will need to be addressed for Australia to move towards sustainable practices. These will include maintaining our land, water and marine and biological environments, ensuring threats to biosecurity are addressed, adapting to climate change and dealing with increases in input costs. Science can underpin all of these challenges. Regardless of our agricultural productivity success, we are faced with the reality that many farming practices and processes will need to continually adapt and change. In 10 years, GM crops are expected to make staple cereal and tuber crops tolerant to salinity. In 20 years, we'll have found a way to make those same crops tolerant to higher temperatures. Science is crucial to the prosperity of our country. On this monumental day, as we're all gathered, I do want to also share 5 key lessons that I've applied on my journey in the time since I graduated. Hopefully you'll benefit from some of this information as well. The first is to keep learning. Make sure that you keep your focus on learning. The sea of knowledge knows no boundaries, and learning does not begin or end with university education. You will continue to learn throughout all of your next endeavours. And having a focus on this individually within yourself is important. All of us here today have our own continued journeys of learning without boundaries, whether that be at home or at work, whether paid or unpaid, or whether planned or by chance. The second thing I'll suggest is make sure you can find what you love. You will need to look for an endeavour that you enjoy. Your work is going to fill a large part of your life, And the only way to be satisfied with what you do is to believe what you do is great work and to enjoy it. I always wanted to work in agriculture with animals and with a focus on the environment. I wanted to continue in science and continue technical learning, and I'm lucky I've been able to combine all of these aspirations in my career to date. But equally, I should say that you need not succumb to pressure to define these interests all at once. Many of us work this out over a long duration, therefore it's important to be flexible and open with your goals and keen to pursue areas of your interest without focusing on achievement all the time. Opportunities will continue to come, so keep putting your hands up for these throughout your journey. The other suggestion I'll make to you is don't be afraid to ask. One of the things I've discovered is that you can't do everything alone, and it's important that you take the opportunity to listen, to learn, and to seek advice of others to shape your future professional journeys. I've been very lucky to have had a series of mentors throughout my life and career, starting with my lecturers at university, to my line managers across various roles, to directors and chairpersons later in my career. I've sought out these individuals and engaged them to learn, so do not be afraid to ask and look to a mentor that can help you shape your choices, develop your experiences, and support you in seeking opportunities. Make big choices early and often. Begin by creating goals and objectives, even if these start small. I started my career as an animal welfare scientist. I took up every opportunity I could to get out into industry and learn as much as possible, all across areas of agriculture and the supply chain. I went on to create the first set of national animal welfare audits and standards, which are now legislated across the country for all of the major livestock industries. I worked in multiple sectors between industry and government, creating almost a matrix of programs until I'd completed my goal. This took me nearly 6 years and enabled me to diversify my skills, but essentially I identified a gap in an area that I wanted to focus and I went for it. So identify those opportunities for yourselves and don't be afraid to start trying anything you can for those new experiences. Be open to change. One must be open to change in order to grow, and it's never very easy. Change can be associated with leaving the support of a university environment, moving away from home to embark on a new job offer. But knowing change is for the better is important. It pushes us beyond our comfort zones. It ultimately improves our individual potential and ability. After my early experience in research and policy, I changed my path and direction into governance and management. Some of you may already have made these sorts of changes by changing subjects, taking on another degree or looking to take one on, or pursuing a role that is different from what you envisaged. But these experiences will all contribute to your journey, so don't be afraid to make these changes. I found that after taking a role as Chief Executive, I then went on maternity leave and took another role as a Chief Executive in New Zealand, starting this time a journey in a new country, with a young baby girl and having to get accustomed to new legislation, new networks and new systems. Change can be important in shaping your journey and what you want to achieve. You gain more courage as you go along. Finally, make sure that you all look after yourselves and be present in the moment. Taking care of your well-being is paramount. If you can't do the little things right, it's harder to do the big things. So making sure that you're present and that you take time out to decide on what you need, what you should be pursuing and where your interest lies is important. You'll appreciate time more and more as it goes on and as you look back to your experiences. So today, as we come together as a student faculty graduating the University of Adelaide, we celebrate a job well done. A job that has opened the door to many opportunities for each of you. And as you prepare to go into the world as alumni, remember who you are and don't ever forget your value. Congratulations.
On behalf of the graduates and their families attending today's event, I would like to thank Ms. Michelle Edge for her stimulating and inspiring address. We are honoured that you have taken the time to join us on this special day to share with us your thoughts and experiences. Your words of encouragement and advice are greatly appreciated. They remind us that education places upon each of us an enduring responsibility to make the best possible use of our talents. and to contribute to the betterment of society in whatever way we can. Please join me in once again thanking Ms. Michelle Edge.
It's now my pleasure to introduce to you to Alice Ascari. Alice will shortly be presented with the Bachelor of Science, but will now give to us the valedictory speech on behalf of the cohort of graduates who will shortly be presented with their awards. Thank you, Alice.
Deputy Chancellor, Interim Vice-Chancellor, distinguished guests, family, friends, and last but not least, to my fellow graduates, congratulations. It's an honour to stand before you today to celebrate our collective achievements over the past years and to recognise the hard work and commitment that we have all invested to be here today. Whilst we might be meeting here 6 months later than we expected, and perhaps the hype and excitement of having finished a chapter of study here at the university may be somewhat less recent, it does not take away from the significance of our achievement. It has been quite an unconventional year, with the global pandemic and everything, but I'd like to thank the university for putting together this graduation event that has allowed us to come here and celebrate together. For me, and many people who I was lucky enough to meet during my study, the past 3 years or so of our degrees have been a challenging but extremely rewarding experience. Over the course of our degrees, we have all learned a lot academically, but we have also learned a great deal about ourselves, our passions and interests, which in turn have helped shape our directions for the future. When I started my university education, I was not exactly sure where it would take me. I had a keen interest in science and dreamed of one day being able to undertake a PhD. So I started a Bachelor of Biomedical Science, and at the time I was intent on majoring in chemistry. However, as the first year progressed, I remember sitting in chemistry lectures and learning about theoretical orbitals that look like balloons, waking up at 2 a.m. after my chemistry exam because I'm pretty sure the answer to multiple choice question 15 was not A, but in fact C, and the undeniable and unforgettable thrill of doing and writing up a whole prac report in only a few hours. But as one door closed, with my focus shifting away from chemistry and the physical sciences, a million others opened. One of the best aspects of the undergraduate degrees is the fact they allow you to experience an array of subjects and topics to help you find those you are most passionate about. For me personally, I studied physics and chemistry to microbiology and genetics, which I'm extremely grateful for, as it allowed me to find the topic I preferred best and commence an MPhil in microbiology. I believe the experiences over the last few years have shown it's perfectly acceptable to change your mind and to pursue a different road as many or as few times as necessary, that it is rewarding to follow your passions and key to challenge yourself and push yourself to do and be the best you possibly can. I encourage you to reflect on your own personal experiences, to recall all the hard work, acknowledge the sacrifices you have made to reach this point, recognize the people who helped and supported you during the course of your study, and appreciate the significance of what you have in fact achieved. Today, we celebrate the end of a chapter, but it is not the end of the road. I know going forward we will all be pursuing diverse careers. Some of us may pursue further study in science, some may pursue study in other fields, and some may dive into work where they can apply the skills that they have learned and developed over these years. Regardless of where the next chapter takes you, I urge you to use your experiences at the university as a positive tool to move forward from today. Use the experiences you've had and knowledge and skills you've gained both in your careers, but also to be the best possible version of yourselves. Of course, we would not be standing here today without the support of our families, friends, teachers, and mentors, who we have been lucky enough to have with us over the duration of our study. On behalf of the cohort here today, I would like to thank everyone that has helped us for the duration of our study for the endless support and encouragement. In particular, I would like to thank my parents, who moved halfway across the world to give me the opportunities I've had, and for having been there for all the highs and all the lows. I couldn't have done it without you. To my friends, especially those I was fortunate enough to meet through my degree, we shared many long days at uni, revising for exams, preparing for various tutorials and pracs. However, it was all the help that we shared along the way that made the past 3 years all the more richer and easier. It is because of you I can look back at, on studying here frantically for exams as a positive memory. To the teachers and mentors, you have given each of us the best possible education and preparation possible. I would like to thank you for always believing in us, pushing us and challenging us to strive for our best, and encouraging us to follow our passions both in and outside of science. Without all the long hours you invest in preparing course materials, lecturing, designing, and marking assignments, meanwhile replying to 1 million of our emails, we would not be here today. And finally, to the graduating cohort, I wish you all the very best for the bright future ahead. Going forward, reflect on your achievements and be confident you can apply yourselves equally well to any future endeavours. Good luck to you all, and congratulations to everyone here today. You have something to be very proud of.
I will now receive the candidates for degrees. I call on the Interim Vice-Chancellor and President.
Deputy Chancellor, I, Professor Mike Brooks, Interim Vice-Chancellor and President of the University of Adelaide, certify to you and the whole University that the graduates who will be presented to you have all fulfilled the conditions prescribed for admission to the award for which they are so presented.
I, David Hill, Deputy Chancellor of the University of Adelaide, by virtue of the power committed to me by the University, confirm that each graduate is admitted to the rank and privileges of a holder of the award in the University of Adelaide for which they are so presented. I call on the Interim Executive Dean of the Faculty of Sciences, Professor Laura Parry, to present the graduates.
Deputy Chancellor, I, Interim Executive Dean of the Faculty of Sciences, Professor Laura Parry, present to you graduates from the Faculty of Sciences. Graduates, we ask that you please stand at your seats when your name is called, and please can you hold your applause until the end of each degree. To the degree of Bachelor of Viticulture and Enology, Morgan Teresa Baxter, Thomas Gerard Borghesi, Daniel Jeffrey Burke, Robert Kane, Roman Connor Davas Fay, Zihan Du, Jack Peter Edmonds, Reese Brian Fitzgerald, James Brian Fox, Lauren Jade Gligora, Frances Alice Grummet, Shawaray Gore, Lee Francis Heinrich, Abby Francis Heslop, Kate Louise Horseman, Michelle Ruth Huckle, Lauren Elizabeth Hutton, Jackson Wallace Jantz, Xinyi Li, Hannah Margaret Medlock, Ryan William Montgomery, Joshua Ramsey, Victoria Claire Schwartz, Likun Wang, Wenjie Wu, Yaojun Jian, and Jiali Zhu. To the degree of Bachelor of Science, Wildlife Conservation Biology, Claudia Kate Batten, Ethan Peregrine Beaver, Aisha Blamey, Tamarend Jade Cresswell,
Anthony Domenica Di Palma, Molly Hawkes Homan, Faith Layla Hughes, Ellen Anita Kilpatrick, Victoria Phoebe Ann Love, Daniel Glenn Marcos, Alexander Robert George Mason, Ji-young Park, Andrew James Shabaro, Eilish Mary Thomas, Bailey Maeve Trenwith, Christiane Rose Turner, Jenny Weinheimer, Darcy Anthony Whitaker, and Lucy Bell Wood. To the degree of Bachelor of Science, Veterinary Bioscience, Kelly Adamson, Hannah Kate Arnold, Emily Claire Bodinet, Jordan Brianna Blythe, Melissa Jane Bowie, Alexandra Pearl Bucci, Brianna Claire Corbin, Olivia Grace Cox, Jock Foster Crosby Gould, Amy Judith Dorman, Emily Lorraine Gazzard, Kate Elise Hettner, Lily Mia Horner, Lloyd Ings, Samantha Kane, Amy Kapushniak, Kate Marie Krause, Alexandra Hope Lamb, Dana Ellen Lowry, Rebecca Ann Leading, Julia Linarello, Cassandra Lee Marr, Penelope Jo Meseros, Leander Maria Michael, David Stuart Monaghan, Madison Elise Perry, Celia Wren Peters, Heather Amber Ridgway, James Lawrence Robinson, Deanna Amelia Louise Rosenweig, Miranda Catherine Sargent, Shannon J. Schultz, Yuen Chi Tam, Megan Marie Thomas, Tobias William Threadgold, Lily Walker, Linda Marie Warner, Nikki Jade Wenham, Kate Lauren Werfel, and Caitlin Ann Ring. To the degree of Bachelor of Science, Space Science and Astrophysics, Abdul Malik Mohammed Suba Mohammed Al-Sharafi, Fraser William Bradfield, Mira Deshpande, Sin Yu Lee, Also receiving the degree of Bachelor of Mathematical and Computer Sciences, Wayne Joseph Maloney. Kyle James Netz. Reese Brewis. Ashwin Rajendran. And Matthew Stewart Taverner. To the degree of Bachelor of Science, Molecular and Drug Design, Shuwei Chen. To the degree of Bachelor of Science, Mineral Geoscience, Alicia Margaret de Groot. Kalen Charles Gruby. Austin Dylan Hill. Paul John Keller. Dana Jane Leslie. Isaac Joseph Lord. Kelly MacDonald. Brooke Holly North. William James Rowe. Aidan Bryce Spilsbury. Courtney Louise Stocker. And Erica Jane Vanderwolf. To the degree of Bachelor of Science, Marine Biology, William Michael Armstrong Gilmore. Hamish Benjamin Heath. Lyndall James. Jiaji Nok. Estelle Patricia Reed Lasser. Yankai Sarah Lee. Matilda Jane Mayello. Lachlan Daniel MacLeod. Erin Laura Pickler. Remy Percival Ritchie. Amelia Susanna Roberts. Chloe Nicola Roberts. Kieran Alexander Stugingu. Zach Wheaton. And Jack Endicott Wilson. To the degree of Bachelor of Science, Evolutionary Biology, Joseph Paul Edson. To the degree of Bachelor of Science, Biotechnology, Asia Nazura Asman. Chantal Elise Bardadin. Christian James Bennett. Teresa Cavallo. Ryan Andre Edwards. Flynn William Evans. David Sean Hansman. Francesca Laritza. Yingxing Luo. Anis Atifa Binti Mohammed Kaberi. Mohammed Zafran bin Mod Aris. Suraya Andrew Onesha. Ryan Santos. Matthew Anthony Shannon. Sally Roanne Steele. Sigurida Amelia Tangi. Carrie Jane Thomas. Wendy Yi Lin Tong. And Kaijing Xue. To the degree of Bachelor of Science, Biomedical Science, Alice Ascari. Jake Atkinson. Corey Thomas Blackmore. Lee Yi Chong. Thomas Don Cleggett. Nicole Margaret Colley. Kelsey Jo Dunbar. Shenai Gunatilaka. Nozhat Tabassum Hassan. Shakiratul Afaya Haji Muhammad Shi. Joshua Thomas Hodgson. Kristin Joy Jarius. Huey Liao. David William John Lynn. Alex Mary Lins. Jiao Liu. Hugh Ting Lo. Evangeline Alice Ksenia Lovell. Hannah Elizabeth Lyons. Natasha Alicia May. Laura Nicole Nesbitt. Alex Menelaus Paraskevas. Olivia Margaret Patient. Zach Kellum Price. Courtney Jane Santo Stefano. Dylan Samansky. Cindy Tay. Jack Treadray. Jacob Truong. Kiralee Amber Vugler. Jessie Rose Walker. Jack Kenneth Waters. And Yuking Wu. To the degree of Bachelor of Science, Animal Science, Ebony Ray Ackland. Courtney Louise Afford. Natel Mari Bays. Jade Birmingham. Georgia Ashley Bishop. Emily Ann Bosley. Jessica Marie Bowers. Sean Buck. Connor Henry Burry. Jan Samantha Pineda Kuhalig. Jade Marie Cowley Schultz. Isabel Georgia DeVizio. Chelsea Louise Dossett. Emily Kate Edwards. Megan Folwell. Chloe Helen Frick. Sabrina Sky Gaskin. Brianna Golda Dewar. Cheyenne Renee Gonzalez. Lisa Haley Granger. Samantha Ellen Grund. Mia Olivia Hall. Taylor Mackenzie Headland. Ashley Hicks. Sarah Elizabeth James. Chelsea Ann Koch. Eva Kozbeski. Hugh Man Lee. Shannon Georgina Logan. Jade Marie Stewart Marshall. Morgan Charlie McCallum. Holly Brooke Mills. Kathleen Meow. Gabrielle Lynette Nikelski. Adrian Niscioli. Courtney Renee Parrott. Samantha Kate Pascoe. Elizabeth Lilia Perry. Emma Dawn Peters. Danielle Louise Paulden. Patricia June Rojas Punzalan. Donata Rochella. Andrea Jane Roth. Gemma Chantel Sansom. Ning Yan Sin. Nicole Sue Ning Tan. Jordan Leslie Triggs. Kathleen Leonie-Ann Williams. And Isabel Wright. To the degree of Bachelor of Science, Emily Jane Ahern. Zahira Gulnar Ali. Andrew Charles Aliff. James Aldrin Basbas. Chanuka Anushika Basnyaki. Emma Caitlin Beecroft. Thomas William Batozzi. Joel Isaac Bowles. Juan Jose Camacho Valencia. Polly Canning. Nathan Adam Carney. Georgina Maria Carter. Selena Chang. Also receiving the degree of Bachelor of Arts, Sarah Elizabeth Charman. Wanji Chia. Makashay Dawn Cole, Dominic Koskia, Raul Dalal. Also receiving the Diploma in Languages, Emma Rose Dangerfield. Jenny Christina Day. Nathan DeLivian. Andrew Martin Dempsey. Gabrielle Dibden. Also receiving the Bachelor of Arts, Victoria Louise Drysdale. Also receiving the degree of Bachelor of Arts, Georgia Elise Dunstone. Also receiving the degree of Bachelor of Arts, Tristan James Fenn. Corey Michael Fordham. Jara Den Fowler. Jessica Gibbs. Rose Gillespie. Also receiving the honours degree of Bachelor of Engineering, Emily Nicole Hack. Laura Jane Hale. Glenn He. Lachlan Paul Hyatt. Sarquin Lani Kadia Hunt. Kendall Louise Jenner. Paul David Jensen. Angela Joy. Anna Karagovnova. Rehana Karul Anwar. Mikala Kidd. Michael Knightley. Alexandros Kolovinos. Jacinta Mitza Kokachman. Eugene Lee. Yushi Jia. Shuan Guyang Liu. Wenjun Liu. Also receiving the degree of Bachelor of Arts, Erin Jennifer Lucas. Caleb James Lushington. Justin Henry Marshall. Devorson Landry Mubara. Also receiving the degree of Bachelor of Arts, Jessica Joy Maguire. Kylie Louise Mingy. Nicholas James Monday. Chantal Sanju Narayan. Min Lee Wien. Naziha On. Emma Rose Osborne Smith. Olga Christina Pandos. Joseph Lyle Pritchard. Denali Thesaya Ranawira. Andreas Miles Reuter. April Dimity Rivers Kennedy. Mark Robertson. Sumaida Sareen. Eleanor Rose Alexandra Saulius. Also receiving the Diploma in Languages, Rebecca Louise Scavarelli. Rebecca Ellen Siebert. Dylan Luke Simonson. Benjamin James Slimming. Eleanor Mary Brett Small. Thomas Douglas Small. Philip Paul Smith. Jared Peter Sortini. Yi-Chen T. Tam Tang Tai. Madison Joy DL. Esther Toth. Lane Amber Trenorden. Elliot Scott Turner. Remy Van Andringham. Melanie Anne van der Verdonk. Alistair Charles Vaughan. Jared John Watkins. Nicholas David Wheeler. Jacqueline Williams. Courtney Jinkiep Philly Sikui. Also receiving the degree of Bachelor of Arts, Isabella Rose Wilson. Jonathan Daniel Wilson. Yanka Zhu. Fatin Nazira Zainalabedin. Mitchell Jack Zarella. Hangyang Zhou. And Nicholas John Zunis. To the degree of Bachelor of Science Advanced, Paul Beecroft. Emily Louise Bennett. Andre Pearson Berv. Georgia Nicole Bolingbrook. Joshua Celeste. Ryan Reese Coleman. Also receiving the Diploma in Languages, Elizabeth Hannah Collis. Elise Cassandra Joy Culver. Taryn Claire Davies. Tyler Noel Dornan. Also receiving the Diploma in Languages, Lucinda Cameron Duxbury. Daniel Aaron Fanchesinis. Liam Josiah Franoff. Sebastian Jacob Gagui. Rafe Daniel Giron. Ashley Briar Geiger. Samuel Arthur Luke Godwin. Charles Michael Grant. Also receiving the Diploma in Languages, Sophia Elizabeth Hatwell. Alexander James Ketty. Helen Chokadar. Thomas Singdar Kong. Andreas Kotsanis. Kira Jean Lowe. Emily Rose March. Samantha Nicole March. Lewis Owen McFarlane. Ross Monaghan. Sophie Kate Musir. Stuart John O'Neill. River Jack Pakalish. Helen Rose Way Piercy. Lucy Kate Priest. Ned Levy Ryan Schofield. Jack Benjamin Steen. Peter Terrell. Sarah Tesselin. Adnan Rizwan Thakor. Megan Thomas. Anna Triggs. Brooke Nairi Trowbridge. Stephen Sukatis. Michael John Ushi. Alexander Sean Woodcock. And Jingyi Yang. To the degree of Bachelor of Food and Nutrition Science, Shiga Kai. Mia Courtney Francesca. Joseph Roy Hutt. Lingyang Lee. Kevin John Matthews. Amal Batresaya Binti Mod Idris. Tazi Shan Tang. And Xin Wu. To the degree of Bachelor of Applied Biology, Kieran Michael Carline. Jack Henry Kelly. Elias Laganik. Evadoxia Lagonic. And Sophie Louise Winsborough. To the degree of Bachelor of Agricultural Sciences, also receiving the degree of Bachelor in Environmental Policy and Management, Bonnie Lee Armour. Ruben Ricardo Beatty. Bir Bikram Biswazre. Georgia Louise Cooper. Matthew Alexander Cooper. Matt Alexander Correll. Riley Kernow. Lucy Rose Dangerfield. Matthew Jack Deere. Nicole Kristin Fechner. Jack Ryan Flavel. Lachlan Florence. Connor William Fuss. Brianna Rose Gydra. Jack Henry Haasma. Natasha Hallett. Caitlin Rose Heinrich. Meg Emily Holmes. Heina T. Mi Han. Peter Michael Jealous. Tom Lachlan Kitsky. Ka Wa Lee. Cody Leiblick. Anjing Lee. Nathan Rees-Lloyd. Linxia Luan. Millicent Annie Moore. Daniel Braden Puckridge. Ashley Madison Pulford. Hamish David Slater. Troy David Stokewool. Thomas Henry Tahane. Mitch James Taylor. Nicholas Charles Wells Smith. And Keely Shu. To the degree of Bachelor of Agricultural Science, Stacey Jane Polomka. To the honours degree of Bachelor of Viticulture and Enology, Yusin Gore. Grace Juranek. Jinsin Liao. Imogen Haley McNamara. And Han Wang. To the honours degree of Bachelor of Science, High Performance Computational Physics, Anna Louise Lickey. Gabriel Ruth. And Mitchell Gordon Shavorsky. To the honours degree of Bachelor of Science, Daniel Lloyd Appleby. Rachel Amber Atkins. Lachlan Warren William Bear. Sarah Ann Bagster. Alexandra Bailey. Gemma Balog. Tori Lynn Botha. Su Lin Kiao Bu. Also receiving the degree of Bachelor of Science, Animal Science, Billy J. Bruham. Chloe Renee Buchanan. Trent Russell Chase. Andrew Jeremy Chow. Matthew Alexander Coleman. Cassidy Michelle Coutard. Chris Joshua Cruz. Also receiving the degree of Bachelor of Science, Kylie Quinn Doe. Jacinta Caitlin Dockerell. Sophie Deborah Louise Dolling. Jenna Draper. Tara Allison Evans. Matthew James Farrell. Magdalene Giannotta. Also receiving the degree of Bachelor of Science, Georgette Claire Hawes. Mitchell Ryan Herrick. Isabella Mary Louisa Hodge. Isabel Violet Hume. Ruby Zelda Hume. Alexander William Jackson. Olivia Leonore Johnson. Jamie Jones. Christopher Clement Keneally. Shannon Kleeman. Jack Cloys. Hu-Ching Lam. Bobby Amelia Lewis Bider. Maijuan Liao. Daniel G. Lim. Matthew Lawrence Linky. Brooke Emily Lerenz. Christopher Lauchak. Tessa Paris Manning. Josiah Samuel Mattern. Caitlin Emma McFarlane. Tara Jane Mackenzie. Alistair Duncan McKinnon. Amy Laurel Munn. Nicholas John Murdoch. Stephanie Elise O'Hara. Emma Jane Perfetto. Cleopatra Perclassus. Nicholas James Powell. Angus Eugene Ritalik. Kalimna Rosemons. Tegan Romaine. Isaac Henry Rosetto. Michael Scholik. Claire Victoria Schubert. Bethany Alice Sleep. Sabrina Slimani. Nicholas John Smith. George Nicholas Simons. Lily Aline Taylor. Patrick David Timmins. Caitlin Joy Thomas. Darcy Morgan Howard Watson. Sarah Caroline Welsh. Kelly May Wenham. Ella Ray West. Joseph Widrington. Brittany Ruth Williams. And Bing Wu. To the honours degree of Bachelor of Applied Biology, Jacqueline Page Barsby and Elizabeth Mary Williamson. To the Graduate Diploma in Viticulture and Enology, Simeo Chen, Nicholas James Goss, Yu Gu, Claire Harmon, Wensheng Shea, Raphael Michael, Jimit Gadhabhai Patel, Sophie Justine Kaliski Toth, and Hao Wang. To the Graduate Diploma in Biotechnology Biomedical, Laiping Li, Rushit Suresh-Kumar Patel, and also receiving the degree of Bachelor of Science, Buyang Xu. To the degree of Master of Viticulture and Enology, Hunan An, Zhang Cao, Runun Duan, Alison Parker Lamping Helmer, Yiming Huo, Ping Li, Zhengji Li, Sristi Limbu, Giyu Lin, Hongkai Pei, Jipeng Pei, Haotian Peng, Zelin Peng, Rituj Ravi Sangruka, Chongjian Qian, Wanning Tu, Yang Wang, Li Hua Wu, Shi Kan Shu, Shi Hao Yang, Wensheng Yang, Yang Yu, Hao Wei Zheng, and Tian Zhao. To the degree of Master of Biotechnology Biomedical, Shatana Ananthanan Rayanam, Sepida Taramshare, Oya Chen, Piwen Fan, Minu Jayapal, Siyuan Jia, Rujan Li, Chixing Ling, Jawen Liu, Manpreet Kaur, Nguyen Noch Mahi Han, Soruba Kiran Pasay, Yia Shah Ramani, Nandini Govindasame Sandran, Tan Eng Kuan Brandon, Hongao Tian, Wandi Wang, Hangui Shi, Boran Shah, Yimin Xie, Zijan Yi, Jaiwi Zhang, Pan Zhang, Ruoji Jiang, and Yingming Zhang. To the degree of Master of Bioinformatics, Chelsea Ann Matthews and Luan Zhong. To the degree of Doctor of Veterinary Medicine, Olivia Therese Armstrong, Peter Jonathan Atkinson, Magnolia Faith Bell, Alexandra Renee Boileau, Sarah Louisa Brownrigg, Sophia Valentina Canala, Brody Jai Karache, Ella Grace Cousins, Nicole Rachel Cruikshank, Emily Jane Dearsley, Rihanna Denon, Natalie Dreschel, Jennifer Du, Jessica Jane Ellis, Danny Al-Zahabi, Mark Allen Gates, Imogen Lucy Gee, Victoria April Gray, Wesley Tristan Halls, Charlotte Ki Teng Han, Mara Jean Kelly Donahue Hobergan, Jerin Joy, Holly Harnett Kerr, Nicole Louise Kopp, Gia Ern Lam, Jack Jabaka Lu, Rafaela Lubiana, Bradley Alexander McCulloch, Adem Merkan, Vitus Ki Hiai Ing, Sarah Renata Nichols, Danielle Shu Wen Ong, Janelle Louisa Payne, Christy Ann Pern, Sarah Jane Pacey, Tyler Roenfeld Philp, Laura Jane Salisbury, Emma Caitlin Shepherd, Nathaniel Jacob Smith, Jeffrey Reese Thompson, Ahmi Wueno, Tom Weisbrot, Bethany Helena Winra, Rebecca Marjorie Wood, Madeline Rose Yoellis, and Sabine Yip. To the degree of Master of Philosophy, for a thesis entitled Studies of TeV Gamma Ray Sources in the Hydrogen Alpha Optical Line, Rami Nafea B. Al-Sulami. For a thesis entitled Center Vortices in Lattice QCD, Visualizations and Impact on the Gluon Propagator, James Crawford Biddle. For a thesis entitled Application of Importance Sampling for Point Source Analysis with the IceCube Neutrino Observatory, Ryan Thomas Burley. For a thesis entitled Probing the Gamma Ray Emission from HESS source RX J1713.7-3946, Andrew Nicholas Curzons. For a thesis entitled Colour in Pinot Noir Wines, Does Climate Have an Impact? Gavin Peter Dooley. For a thesis entitled Searching for 4 Top Quarks with the Atlas Detector, Emily Kathleen Filmer. For a thesis entitled Towards Synthesis of a Novel Chelator for Zirconium-89, Padraig Lorcan McNamara Fife. For a thesis entitled Investigation of Narrowband Acoustico-Optic Tunable Filters for Semiconductor Laser Tuning, Adam James Gamble. For a thesis entitled Generalized Parton Distributions from Lattice Feynman-Hellman Techniques, Alec Hannaford Gunn. For a thesis entitled Direct CP Violation in B mesons decays, Liam Christopher Hockley. For a thesis entitled Equation of State of Rotating Neutron Stars, Wasif Hussain. For a thesis entitled Constraining the Equation of State of Nuclear Matter with Neutron Stars, Anthony Michael Karlaitzis. For a thesis entitled Investigating the Host Range and Origins of Foma Kulunga, Ascocchi Blighter Philp, Elizabeth Carroll Kiernan. For a thesis entitled Fast Simulation and a Search for 4 Top Quark Production with the Atlas Experiment, Albert Jing Yi Kong. For a thesis entitled Probing a Promiscuous Binding Pocket of the Proteasome, Dion Joel Lamas Turner. And for a thesis entitled Optical Fiber Cavities for Sensors and Lasers, Liashen Xie. To the degree of Doctor of Philosophy, for a thesis entitled The Evolution of Diet Width in Lasioglossum Chelictus Halictidae Apoidae in association with speciation and sensory morphology, Dr. Trace Aken Kunda. For a thesis entitled The Tectonic Evolution of the Southern Congo Craton, Dr. Brandon Luke Alessio. For a thesis entitled The Effects of High-Temperature Metamorphic and Melting Processes on Granulite Facies Rocks, Dr. Chiara Louise Alessio. For a thesis entitled Molecular Genetics and Genomics Approaches to Improve Phytophthora Root Rot Resistance in Chickpea, Dr. Amritha Amalraj. For a thesis entitled Development and Application of Leaf Wax Geochemistry to Reconstruct Late Cenozoic Climate and Environmental Change in Australia, Dr. Jake William Andre. For a thesis entitled Hydrologic and Isotopic Lake Modelling for Paleoclimate Research, Dr. Martin James Ancor. For a thesis entitled Characterising Blue Carbon, an Assessment of Soil Carbon in Temperate Coastal Wetlands, Dr. Christina Helen Asanopoulos. For a thesis entitled A Radiobiological Markov Model for Aiding Decision-Making in Proton Therapy Referral, Dr. Annabelle Mary Austin. For a thesis entitled Quality of Evidence Used for the Management of Antimicrobial Resistance in Australian Animals, Dr. Skye Michelle Badger. For a thesis entitled Identification and Understanding of Saccharomyces Enococcus Interactions in Wine Fermentation, Dr. Louise Joyce Bartool. For a thesis entitled Aspects of the Interactions Between Honeybees, Apis mellifera, and Propagules of Plant Pathogens, Dr. Georgiana Benavente Parish. For a thesis entitled An Investigation of the Chemistry of Silver in Biological Systems and the Development of Silver-Containing Materials for Use as Antimicrobial Agents, Dr. Harley Duane Betts. For a thesis entitled Eigenmode Projection Techniques for Magnetic Pulsabilities in Lattice QCD, Dr. Ryan James Bignall. For a thesis entitled Not Going, Going, Gone, Affordable Biodiversity Gains from a Conservation Auction, Dr. Anthelia Josephine Bond. For a thesis entitled The Sex-Dependent Impact of Maternal Feed Restriction Stress and Elevated Corticosterone in Ovo on Meat Bird Growth, Development and Hypothalamic Gene Expression, Dr. Mandy Ann Bowling. For a thesis entitled Understanding and Exploiting Zinc Toxicity in Streptococcus pneumoniae, Dr. Erin Bridget Brazel. For a thesis entitled Climate, Humans, Fire and Megafauna, Key Drivers of Australian Subtropical Vegetation, Dr. Heidi Rochelle Cad. For a thesis entitled Integration of Advanced Remote Sensing and Geospatial Methodologies to Enhance Mineral Exploration, an example from the Southern Gawler Ranges, South Australia, Dr. Alicia Sophia Caruso. For a thesis entitled In Vitro Efficacy of Ionophores and Antimicrobial Adjuvants against planktonic and biofilm-producing pathogens associated with canine otitis externa, Dr. Wei Yi Chan. For a thesis entitled Understanding Salinity Tolerance of a Bread Wheat Landrace, Moccada espigna branca, Dr. Chana. For a thesis entitled The Characterization of Sodium Chloride Crystal for a Reusable Radiation Dosimeter, Dr. Alexandra Chapsky. For a thesis entitled Polyfunctional Thiols in Wine, Chirality, Precursor, Stereochemistry, Winemaking Impacts and Fate, Dr. Liang Chen. For a thesis entitled Understanding Lipid Utilization in Large Yellowtail Kingfish, Dr. Samantha Naomi Chown. For a thesis entitled Studies on the Nature of Crude Oil Strandings Collected from the Southern Australian Coastline, Dr. Alexander James Corrick. For a thesis entitled Analysing the Shoot and Root Response of Wheat in a Soil Environment Under Variable Water and Nitrogen Supply, Dr. Olivia Helena Cousins. For a thesis entitled Investigation of the Gator-1 complex genes in focal cortical dysplasia and focal epilepsy, Dr. Ruby Emily Dawson. For a thesis entitled Strategies to Improve the Efficiency of Oxidation Reactions of the enzyme cytochrome P450 BM3, Dr. Shagayeg Desvarai. For a thesis entitled Prevalence and Pathological Findings Associated with Chlamydia pecorum and Koala retrovirus infections in South Australian koala populations, Dr. Jessica Helen Fabian. For a thesis entitled Characterization of Human Dental Pulp Stem Cells in an Animal Model of Multiple Sclerosis, Dr. Kerry Louise Foyle. For a thesis entitled Late Paleozoic and Mesozoic Thermotectonic Evolution of the Northeastern Margin of the Tian Shan, Kazakhstan, Northwest China, and Investigations of Appetite Detrital Provenance Methods, Dr. Jack Alexander Gillespie. For a thesis entitled Bioprospecting the Regional Diversity of Australian Wine Microbiota, Dr. Lisa Ann Hartman. For a thesis entitled The Global Trade in Pangolin Species from Asia and Africa, Dr. Sarah Heinrich. For a thesis entitled Cold Atom Loading of Hollow Core Photonic Crystal Fiber for Quantum Technologies, Dr. Ashby Paul Hilton. For a thesis entitled Accumulation and Depletion of Soil Phosphorus Pools, Dr. Kiayen T. Kim Huang. For a thesis entitled The Impact of Habitat Alteration on the Population Dynamics of a Declining Woodland Bird in the Mount Lofty Ranges, Dr. Grace Violet Hodder. For a thesis entitled Bee Physics in Lattice QCD and at Bell 2, Dr. Sophie Elizabeth Hollett. For a thesis entitled Pretty Keen for a Protein, Development of Small Molecule Inhibitors for a Protein-Protein Interaction Domain, Dr. Stephanie Jane. For a thesis entitled A Multiple Omics Approach to Study the Interaction between the Vitis vinifera transcriptome and epigenome and the Barossa Valley terroir, Dr. Pastor Julian Fabries. For a thesis entitled Hydrothermal Carbonization of Novel Biomasses, Dr. Benjamin Jeffrey Keeler. For a thesis entitled Three-Dimensional Printing of Regulatory T Cells, a Novel Immunotherapy to Prevent Transplantation Rejection, Dr. Zhuwan Kim. For a thesis entitled Investigating the Warburg Effect and the Role of Pyruvate Kinase M2 in Retinal Muller Glial Cells, Dr. Taksaorn Kittipatsorn. For a thesis entitled Isospin Violating Hadronic Mass Splittings Using Lattice QCD and QED, Dr. Zachary Kumi. For a thesis entitled Investigating Polyphenol Extracts Using Microwave Technology, Dr. Maria Jolanta Kwiatkowski. For a thesis entitled Regressive Evolution of Vision and Speciation in the Subterranean Diving Beetles from Western Australia, Dr. Barbara Langill. For a thesis entitled Using Advanced Remote Sensing Technologies to Discriminate Patterns of Ancient Aboriginal Land Use in the Australian Arid Zone, Dr. Wallace Boone Law. For a thesis entitled Nitrogen and Phosphorus Removal from Wastewater Added to Sand by Wheat Straw Addition and Wheat Plants, Dr. Lai Tai Huang Shuenet. For a thesis entitled Development of New Antibiotics Based on Biotin Biology, Dr. Guang Zhu Li. For a thesis entitled Genetic and Cytological Analysis of Host Root Responses to Cyst Nematode Infection in Wheat, Dr. Cara Ann Levin. For a thesis entitled Identification and Functional Analysis of RNA Modifications in Arabidopsis thaliana and musculus, Dr. Li Zhu. For a thesis entitled Influencing Metal Organic Framework Catalysis Through Nanoscale Structuralization, Dr. Oliver Michael Linda Patton. For a thesis entitled Role of Cellulose Synthase-like CSL Genes in Barley Root Growth and Differentiation, Dr. Haoyu Lu. For a thesis entitled Structural Evolution of Deformation Bands, Dr. Drew Christopher Lubinecki. For a thesis entitled Enzyme Immobilization Using Porous Frameworks, Dr. Natasha Kate Madigan. For a thesis entitled Oscillations and Sterile Neutrinos, Dr. Zachary Maxwell Matthews. For a thesis entitled Improving Metrobuzin Tolerance in Lentil Lens Culinaris, Dr. Lan Sharman McMurray. For a thesis entitled Deciphering the Transcriptional Mechanisms and Function of SOX3 in the Developing Embryonic Mouse Brain and Postnatal Testes, Dr. Dale Christopher McCanninch. For a thesis entitled Biogeography of Australian Cenopods, Landscape in the Evolution of an Arid Flora, Dr. John Thomas MacDonald. For a thesis entitled The Application of Participatory Extension Through Agricultural Innovation Systems in the Middle East, Dr. Christopher Peter McDonough. For a thesis entitled Plant Aquaporins that Facilitate Cation Transport and Their Regulation by Phosphorylation, Dr. Samantha McGoy. For a thesis entitled Meso-Cenozoic Interplate Magnetism Along the Australian Southern Margin, Dr. Fun Julie Ellen Mewis. For a thesis entitled Control of Adipocyte Differentiation and Metabolism by Mitogen-Activated Protein Kinase, MAPK, Interacting Kinases, MNKs, Dr. James Edward Merritt. For a thesis entitled Novel Fluorescence Techniques for Real-Time Mineral Identification, Dr. Gillian Elizabeth Moffat. For a thesis entitled Late Pruning to Delay Maturity and Preserve Wine Identity in Barossa Shiraz, Dr. Martin Alejandro Moran. For a thesis entitled Testing Consumer Perception for a New Australian Wine Product for the Australasian Market, Sensory Properties, Chemical Composition, and Consumer Acceptance of Shiraz Wine Containing Ganoderma lucidum, Dr. Nguyen Ngoc Hoang On. For a thesis entitled Application and Optimization of Genomic Selection for Wheat Breeding, Dr. Adam Luke Norman. For a thesis entitled A Laser-Based Sensor for Airborne Methane Detection, Dr. Joshua Stephen Pease. For a thesis entitled Electromagnetic Form Factors of Hadrons in the Space-like Region, Dr. Robert James Perry. For a thesis entitled Getting Alcohol Content Right, the Compositional and Sensory Basis for the Alcohol Sweet Spot, Dr. Duc Truc Pham. For a thesis entitled Investigation of the ICSA-mediated Shigella flexneri hyperadherence, Dr. Jilong Xian. For a thesis entitled Genetic and Biological Analysis of Root Lesion Nematode Resistance Loci in Wheat, Dr. Mohammed Shafatur Rahman. For a thesis entitled How Marine Organisms Cope with Changing Climate, Dr. Almendra Rodriguez Dominguez. For a thesis entitled The Early Life History of King George Whiting in South Australia's Gulf Stream, Dr. Troy Adam Rogers. For a thesis entitled Lake Sediment Archives of Lake Holocene Climate Variability in Lutzow Holme Bay, East Antarctica, Dr. Rachel Claire Rudd. For a thesis entitled Analysis of Simulation and Reconstruction Methods used by the Pierre Auger Observatory, Dr. Stephen Jason Safi. For a thesis entitled The Diversity and Function of Bacteria Enriched from Gold Particles, Understanding Bacterial Contribution to Biogeochemical Cycling of Gold, Dr. Santanu Kumar Sanyal. For a thesis entitled On the Detection of Dark Matter, New Prospects for a Multi-Component Dark Sector and Global Fits of Pseudo-Nambu Goldstone Dark Matter, Dr. Andre Scafidi. For a thesis entitled Understanding Flower Development in Barley, Hordeum vulgara through Characterization of Multi-Ovary Moth Mutants and Their Potential Use in Hybrid Breeding, Dr. Katerina Selva. For a thesis entitled The Effect of Single Heating on Soil Microbial Activity and Nutrient Cycling, Dr. S. Mudjan Salaga Miri Priyadarshani Kumari Senavitna. For a thesis entitled Developing Process Simulation Models for Red Wine Fermentation, Anthocyanin Mass Transfer and Extraction, Dr. Patrick Charles Setford. For a thesis entitled Bioinformatics in Traditional Chinese Medicine, Potential Anti-Cancer Mechanisms of Compound Cushion Injection, Dr. Hanyuan Shen. For a thesis entitled Understanding Interpretation Limitations Due to MT Inversion Variability, Examples from the Mount Isa Province, Queensland, Australia, Dr. Janelle Mari Simpson. For a thesis entitled Quantifying Nitrogen Use Efficiency in Wheat Using High-Precision Phenotyping, Dr. Nicholas John Sitlington Hansen. For a thesis entitled processes of industrialization influencing the human oral microbiome, Dr. Emily Jean Skelly. For a thesis entitled Biotin Protein Ligase as a Novel Antifungal Drug Target, Dr. Louise Marie Stanicki. For a thesis entitled The Systematics and Biogeographic History of Australian Arid Zone Onicidin Isopods Phylloskidae, Dr. Danielle Nicole Stringer. For a thesis entitled KIT Mutations in Australian Canine Mast Cell Tumours and Correlations with Patient Prognostic Factors, Dr. Vanessa Tamlin. For a thesis entitled Evaluation of pH-neutral electrochemically activated solution as a sanitizer for livestock husbandry and food safety applications, Dr. Sangay Tenzin. For a thesis entitled Identification and Validation of SOXB1-bound developmental enhancers, Dr. Ella Paulina Thompson. For a thesis entitled Effects of Incorporated and Mulched Organic Amendments on Soil Nutrient Availability, Microbial Activity and Plant Growth, Dr. T. Huang Ha Truong. For a thesis entitled Analysis of the Barley Cereal Cyst Nematode Resistance Locus RA2, Dr. Bart Jos P. van Gansbeke. For a thesis entitled The Application of Next Generation Phenotyping Tools to a Wheat Breeding Program, Dr. James Douglas Walter. For a thesis entitled Iodine Nutrition in Early Life and Childhood Neurodevelopment and Growth, Dr. Mola Messel Wasul. For a thesis entitled Maternal Dietary Environment Modulates Programming Responses in Avian Offspring During Embryonic and Post-Hatch Development, Dr. Sarah Jane Weaver. For a thesis entitled Thorium Substitution in Monocyte, Case Studies and Forward Modeling, Dr. Megan Ellis Williams. For a thesis entitled Nonlinear Magneto-Optical Rotation in Rubidium Vapor, Dr. Nathaniel Morgan Wilson. For a thesis entitled Functional Study of Grapevine, Vitis vinifera, Membrane Ion Transporters Related to Salt Tolerance, Dr. Yue Wu. And for a thesis entitled Ecology and Population Dynamics of Golden Perch in a Fragmented and Flow-Impacted River, Implications for Conservation and Management, Dr. Brenton Peter Zampatti. To the degree of Doctor of Science in the Faculty of Sciences, for a thesis entitled From Studies of the Electronic Structures of Molecules to Molecular Electronics, Dr. Paul James Lowe. And for a thesis entitled Genes, Multigene Families, Control of Gene Expression, Genetic Contributions to Human Diseases, including chromosomal, fragile sites, and dynamic and non-self mutations, Dr. Robert Ian Richards. Deputy Chancellor, this concludes the graduates from the Faculty of Sciences and for this event.
My congratulations to all graduates, and thank you, Professor Perry, for marathon reading. Deputy Chancellor, every year the university presents university medals to acknowledge the most outstanding graduates in each faculty who have completed a University of Adelaide bachelor's degree with honours or bachelor's degree of at least 4 years duration. The university medals are awarded to them for their consistent, outstanding performance across the whole of their graduate studies. I, Professor Mike Brooks, Interim Vice-Chancellor and President of the University of Adelaide, present to you recipients of the 2019 University Medal from the Faculty of Sciences. Mitchell Ryan Herrick and Shannon Kleeman. Deputy Chancellor, the University Master by Research medals are awarded to graduates who have completed outstanding research at master's level. This award is the premier award for Master by Research candidates at the university. I, Professor Mike Brooks, present to you a recipient of the 2019 University Master by Research Medal for research in the field of physics, James Crawford Biddle. Deputy Chancellor, University Doctoral Research Medals are awarded to graduates who have completed outstanding research at doctoral level. This award is the premier award for doctoral candidates at the university. I, Professor Mike Brooks, present to you recipients of the 2019 University Doctoral Research Medal for research in the field of animal and veterinary sciences, Sky Michelle Badger and Patrick Leo Taggart. For research in the field of agriculture, food and wine, Matthew Keevan Orbit. For research in the field of ecology and evolutionary biology, Craig Anthony Liddicoat, Han Hong Nguyen, and for research in the field of molecular and biomedical science, Emily Jean Skelly.
Now very pleased to present to you Imogen Haley McNamara, who was earlier today presented with the honours degree of Bachelor of Viticulture and Oenology. Imogen will now give our second valedictory address on behalf of the cohort of graduates presented with their degrees today.
It's an honour to be representing the graduating class of 2019 as one of the valedictorians. Congratulations to everyone that is celebrating their graduation today. For some of us, it was this time last year when we were coming to an end of our degree programs. So much has changed in the world since then. When I found out I was nominated to be valedictorian, I was taken completely by surprise. And then to be told I was chosen was a really incredible way to conclude a journey that has changed my life. At the beginning of the degree, if someone had hypothesised that I would complete my degree with honours, I would say that that is statistically not probable. My p-value was much greater than 0.05. You could even say I was an outlier. This time 10 years ago, I never could have imagined that I would be here. I come from a military family and we moved every few years, which led to lots of changes to my schooling. While my ability to meet new people was excellent, my academic progression was pretty average. I was all about music and performing arts and dreamt of heading into film production or musical theatre. I was the first in my family to graduate high school, and I did not study maths or science in senior high school.
I don't think I ever chose the wine industry, it chose me. I'd left home at 17 and not long after had started working as a waitress in the restaurant of a Queensland winery. This is my first taste of the wine industry. Fortunately for me, they were a company with a strong focus on career progression. This paved the way for my events and sales and marketing career. No matter what role I did, wine was always the central focus. After moving to the Barossa Valley in 2015, I was inspired by the passion the winemakers of the region had for their industry. I decided to take on the viticulture and enology degree 12 years post-high school with a husband and child in a city where we knew no one. My first time at North Terrace was during O Week, and it dawned on me quite quickly that I wasn't a traditional student. I was at the hub looking at the information booths when a woman approached me and asked if I was proud. Proud? Yes, they grow up so fast, she said, as she pointed to her son that was starting uni. Not wanting to be rude, I pointed to a young brunette and said, yes, they sure do, and casually walked away. Now, given that my daughter had started primary school the week before, I instantly felt rather old. The first few weeks of first year were overwhelming, and I kept telling myself, it'll get better, just give it a year. In second year, I'm just like, get into intro winemaking, second semester. You'll be in the winery, it'll be fine. By the end of second year, it became, well, you're over halfway now, you're too far in to give up. In all honesty, there were so many days where I thought I wouldn't make it to the end. My father said to me recently, no matter how many mountains are put in front of you, you manage to climb them and move on to the next one. It was in these mountain climbing moments when I felt broken and like nothing was ever going to sink in or become easier that I can now reflect and see were in fact my strongest moments. Not only because I kept going, but I would always think about how I could improve the experience for future students. And this led to so many opportunities outside the classroom, from presenting at Wait O Days, the big undergraduate research conference, external conferences both national and international, contributing to learning and teaching communities of practice projects, co-authored a paper in the field of education, worked across several students as partners co-creation projects, and I became an inaugural member of the Wait Peer Mentoring Program. Through this involvement, it opened up many doors for me to attend. The first was the first international wine study tour to the United States and Canada. I also completed the Wait Summer Undergraduate Research Scholarship Program, and in my final year received 2 scholarships, the Barossa Foundation Wait Wine Excellence Scholarship and the Ian Cox Memorial Scholarship. These opportunities were so rewarding and have allowed me to share my experiences and ideas with a wider range of students, teachers, and people in industry. These are also the main reason why I'm addressing you today. This has been such a challenging year, and so much has changed, and at times it's hard to have hope that things are going to get better. One thing I've learnt during my time at university, there are 3 key things you need to return hope: understanding, support, and friendship. During these past few months, my peers have supported each other, stayed connected, hosted online wine tastings, and shared job opportunities. We have understood the situation we have all faced, knowing that our graduate year would not be quite as we had hoped. The 4 years together, we have created bonds that will be lifelong. I'm standing here today not just because of what I have achieved, but because of the relationships with my peers and teachers that have been formed along the way. In the brief I was given to write the valedictorian address, one of the key points was to impart an inspirational message. Like all of my assignments, this speech has had many versions since March, some of which were outpours of my emotions at this year not being close to how I would imagine. I wasn't sure months ago how I could possibly give an inspirational message. Looking at the wine industry, it's not been easy, with 2 years of drought, the changing climate, pandemic-driven loss of global tourism, and the global economic downfall impacting our international markets. But it's through great adversity and downturn that comes innovation, a drive to improve, and a time to educate. Our time here has given us the knowledge, tools, and network to shape the future of our industries. Whether it be in viticulture, enology, agriculture, food sciences, applied biology, or other sciences, this generation of scientists are the custodians of the future. We have to work smarter, greener, more innovatively, often for less, yet produce more. The challenges we will face in our careers should not scare us away, but motivate us as we have a solid foundation from our time here to shape the future. I often said to my fellow students, if I can do it, you can too. The key to completion is resilience. Our success is based on our resilience, to strive and persist, to sometimes fail but not quit. It is through these challenges that we're exposed to that help us develop and grow both as individuals and professionals. So to conclude, to my family, thank you for supporting me every step of the way. To the university, thank you for providing a degree program that allowed me to explore my passion for wine. To the academic staff, thank you for being the heart and soul of what makes this degree great. The passion you show provides us with a diverse range of experiences that enhance our learning. Thank you for your patience and for opening my eyes to a world of opportunities and knowledge that will continue to inspire and drive me for many years to come. To my classmates, sorry for mothering you. I can't guarantee this will stop now that university is finished. Make sure you collect your testaments today. I'm sorry for my mum jokes. Well, I'm not really sorry about those. Thank you for the countless experiences that I will never forget. The random group messages at all hours, the panic questions before assignments are due, swap vac study sessions with the following key ingredients: whiteboards, snacks, wines from work, West End beers, and past exam papers. I'm excited about all the amazing journeys that you will head off and do. As I mentioned earlier, our friendships are lifelong, and I look forward to many more adventures together. When you leave here today, celebrate what you have accomplished, but look forward with an eye toward how you too can help pave the pathway to those that follow us and be an inspiration to others. Thank you.
Thank you, Imogen. That was definitely an inspirational address, and well done on all you've achieved. It certainly gives me very great pleasure now to congratulate you all once again for everything you have all achieved. You should be very proud and look forward to enjoying this exciting and happy day together. As many of our speakers have said, remember those who have supported you to this day and celebrate all the hard work that you have put into this end. I personally wish each of you every success in your life and careers, and I hope that you take your experience at the University of Adelaide with you, because today you join many others. You join an alumni of close to 150,000 people spread right across this world who are making a profound impact in close to 150 countries. So what will your impact be? And I really hope you take that message from Michelle of lifelong learning. Don't make this the end, make this the beginning of the next stage of your personal and career learning. I'd like to again thank Michelle, each of our valedictorians, our mace bearer, and in fact everyone who worked together to make this a very, very special day. What I'd like to do now, because I think this has possibly been the most disciplined graduation I've ever witnessed. When Professor Barry said, don't individually applaud each graduate, I thought, good luck. Because on Friday, with the business and law graduates, that was ignored for the entire graduation. So perhaps that means our scientists are more disciplined and therefore you enjoy greater success. But what we would like to do now, as the stage party, is to rise and congratulate all of you. Now, because of this thing called COVID, I would ask you all to now stand for the academic recession, but please just remain where you are standing. Yes, you can stand, but remain where you are because the COVID marshals will direct you in an orderly manner to the exit. So, on your behalf, I now declare this wonderful congregation adjourned. Thank you.